guys, Bobby Hughes here with Heritage Pride Custom Firearms, and I'm back for the next episode of the Heritage Pride Homestead series. And in this video I'm going to talk specifically about our first house, or the tiny house. Bear with me, I'm just getting over a bad sinus infection, so I'm still a little stuffy. Been battling with that for a few days. So anyway, bear with me on that, but we're going to be talking about, like I said, house number one, which we are going to name Liberty Hall, and it is the tiny house, or the bigger scale tiny house. Now if you watched episode 1, the timeline, I talked about kind of our plan to build a small house without a mortgage, and then move on up into the woods and the property, and or somewhere else on the property, and start building a bigger house and paying cash as we go. So that way when we're done, we have our main house, or the main house, and a guest house, or an intern house, or whatever it might be for the in-law house, whatever, and they'll both be paid for, and no loan or no mortgage. So I first started thinking about the tiny house concept one night. I was on YouTube, surprise, surprise, and I was sucked in. It was one of those things. I was sucked into the recommended videos section, where you go on to check your subscriptions, and you end up getting sucked into 15 hours of YouTube videos. And I found a guy that had built a tiny house. Now, I had heard about the tiny house movement, but I hadn't really actually looked into it very much. But this guy built it was like a 220 square foot tiny house, and it just looked like a shed, basically. It was like 8 by 24 or 8 by 22 or something like that, and it was really cool. Like, I thought, that's neat. And so I got to thinking, because up until this point, I knew I wanted to build without a mortgage. I knew I wanted to pay cash as I went. And originally the plan was to live with my brother and his wife in their house that's way too big for the two of them, until we got the big house built and then move in. Well, once I saw this tiny house concept, I started thinking, you know what? We could probably do that. We could live with my brother for a few months, pay cash, and build that right away. And then that way we get to go ahead and start developing and culturing and working the land and building up and all that stuff without the drive. Because it's about 45 minutes from my brother's house to the area in which we plan on buying land. And so anyway, I saw it and I thought, hey, this could work. This would be really neat. So I consulted with my dad a little bit on it, and he sent me a bunch of links of a bunch of different ideas, and I talked to the wife, and surprisingly she was on board with it. Her big thing is a dishwasher. I guess we've been without one for so long now that that's just a big thing to her. She would rather have that in a microwave than to have a stove and a refrigerator, probably. But anyway, so I talked to her, and she said as long as it's got a dishwasher in it, then we could do that. The only catch is that we can't get too comfortable, because we plan on having several more kids, which the first one's not here yet, by the way. It's a week past due today. So anyway, we plan on having more kids, and we just think that it would be too cramped in there for a lot of kids. So I started thinking of some ideas. Being a carpenter and building houses and stuff, I've got I'm pretty solid on floor plan designs and drawings and stuff like that. And so I started trying to sketch out some rough ideas of what I wanted. Now, whenever you build something small and you're wanting to pay cash for it, you want to save every penny that you can. So what I did was, even though I'm using rough sawn lumber for the tiny home, I wanted to make it a dimension that was pretty material friendly as far as dimensions go. I'm not going to have a bunch of odd numbers and stuff like that. So the house is 14 feet wide and 40 feet long. And Like I said before, it's a little bit bigger than most tiny houses. But for my budget going into it, I said I want to spend $10,000, not a penny more. And so that's what I came up with that I could do for $10,000 is a 14 by 40. It's going to be exposed rafters. Well, they're not actually going to be exposed. It's going to be a vaulted exposed roof or ceiling with knotty pine siding over it and stuff like that. But anyway, it'll be downstairs, and I'll show you the plan here in just a little bit. But it's going to be pretty nice. So let me show you first where I got the idea from, and then we'll look at the actual plans. So I went online and I found this design. This is the design that I'm going to mock our house after. Now this one, I'll actually put a link to this wonderful story about this house. This house was built a long time ago, and it was used for, if I remember correctly, it was used for like railroad workers. When they would be working on the railroad or whatever, this was like their sort of like their stopping cabin or resting house or whatever. Now here recently, the new owners purchased the property with the house, and they renovated it using recycled barn timber and stuff like that, which is really cool. But this is kind of the design of the house. This house is actually a little bit smaller than what my house is going to be, but you'll see here that these the inside of this house is just really, really neat looking. And I wish I could put these digital pictures on the video for you, but I'm not that tech savvy to be able to do that. So I printed off some pretty good images here to show you. This would obviously be standing in like the living room looking into the kitchen area, and just the contrast of having the cathedral type ceilings, you know, in the open room. And if I had to guess, I would say that this one is the website doesn't actually give the dimension, but if I had to guess, I would think that this is probably about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, probably about 12 feet wide, as where mine will be about 14 feet wide. So it'll be a little bit wider, but not much. But I just love how open the floor plan is, the concept of it. The wood floors and the wood walls and the, you know, the simple just cabinetry, and then you've got the wood stove over here. So it's just really neat, really elegant, and it's country living, but it's not too, you know, barbaric, wilderness pioneer living. So it's really actually really neat. Now this would be standing in the kitchen, looking back toward the where we were just standing. And you can see it's really neat, and it's really pretty roomy. They've got these custom built-in couches with storage underneath. And then with the bookcase, the built-in full wall bookcase, which will work really cool for, you know, books, obviously. And then the ladder that goes up into the master suite or in the loft up there. Down the hall, you got a couple of closets on the left, bathroom on the right, and then straight into the back bedroom in the back, which is just as wide as the house is. So it's a fairly decent sized room. And you can see by this, it's just an elegant looking old house. And that's really what I wanted to draw my idea and my concept from. Alright, so now that you know kind of where I got the idea from, I had kind of the basic concept of what I wanted to do using pretty much this layout. And I used a couple of other ideas off the internet that I found some really neat stuff, cabin ideas. And so I'm going to kind of incorporate some other stuff into this basic plan. I really liked this one because it was just so simple and so neat to have the built-in compartments and things like that. So that's the reason why I wanted to use this main concept, and then kind of use a few others and develop it into my own. So by doing that, I came up with this floor plan. After doing some research and kind of using the idea of the other house and things like that, this is what I sat down and scratched out and pulled together for our house, or our idea for a house. And you can see it's basically the same concept as the other. The differences in mine is, like I said, mine is actually 14 feet wide and 40 feet long. The kitchen is in the same general area here. Now I've actually went back and changed this a little bit, and I'll show you in a second. But I actually changed this window out and put another door in back here. So you'll have an entry. Your front door would be here off the front porch, and then there would also be a door here that went out back. Standard, just kitchen cabinets, range, oven combo, double sink, refrigerator, full size refrigerator, whereas the other one was a little bit smaller. And then I did away with that table and chair that was right here, and actually put in two 48-inch base cabinets. Now these base cabinets will serve as a lot of extra storage, and that's probably where the dishwasher is going to end up going. And then in addition to that, we'll have the countertop that excuse me, we'll have the countertop that kind of comes off the back here and makes a neat place for bar stools for eating or breakfast or whatever. Wood stove is basically in the same placement as the other design. Built-in sofa over here. A real steep 24-inch wide staircase that goes up into the loft as opposed to that flimsy ladder. And then underneath the staircase will be a built-in storage unit as well. And then over here I left the built-in couch out so that there would be room to put in a desk or a table or something over here that could be used for, whether we sit down to eat there, use it for a desk, for computers, or whatever, whatever. Moving down the hall, full-size bathroom on the right, washer and dryer closet here, stacked front-load washer and dryer for to take up less space, and then the utility closet would be where the water heater and the plumbing manifold, the PEX manifold, and things like that would be. Moving into the back bedroom, you see it's just as wide as the house is, and if I remember right, it's 10 feet wide or 10 feet deep. We're going to do built-in bunk beds, like submarine-style bunk beds on this side with a pull-out closet. So therefore, you are cutting back on your floor space, but you're not taking up any additional floor space by adding in extra crap that doesn't need to be in there. All right, and then I also had the idea of putting in a double bifold closet in this room. I don't know if we're going to do that or not, because the upstairs is going to actually be the other house I showed you, the one that I'm drawing the idea from, is probably a 6-12 pitch, so it's not very steep. It doesn't give you a lot of clearance in the top, and it's also 8-foot walls. Our house is going to be 10-foot stud walls, so therefore I can drop down these walls to about 7 feet and put my floor in for the loft, which will be up here. It'll cover this entire area, so it'll give me more clearance up top. Plus, we're doing a 12-12 pitch, which will give us plenty of space in the loft. So we may end up doing some form of closet storage up there and keeping this open down here for more room in the bedroom. Now, in addition to that, we'll also put another loft that goes over top of the kitchen, and that loft will be accessed by a ladder, not a staircase, and that will be for pantry storage, whatever, toy storage, book storage, whatever you can think of, extra stuff. That's where it would go. So a little while later, I actually sat down with a free online floor planner builder and did out a little digital floor plan, which turned out pretty cool. It's got little furniture pieces that you can put in here and things like that. So, it's, like I said, it's the same layout, same, exact layout as the other one. Just added the door back here like I mentioned, and changed up the door here. Instead of a pocket door, I put in a standard door. So, basically the same thing, just on a digital scale. And you can do that on Floor Planner. I think it's floorplanner.com, and it's free. All right, let's talk about the foundation for the house now. The foundation is going to be, it's not going to be a basement. I'm not doing a basement. A lot of people are like, why would you not do a basement? Why would you not have that extra protection or whatever? And it all goes back to money, all right? A 14 by 40 basement in this area that we're looking to buy, one, I'm afraid it's going to be pretty rocky. So it's going to cost a lot for excavation. Biggest expense. Believe it or not, excavation would be my biggest expense. So, one, you'd have to be digging it, you would have to dig it out. Two, you're looking at, there's several different options for foundations and basements. Typically, your two options are concrete or cinder block. So then you're looking at that expense plus, the time that it takes to lay the block. So you got to dig the footers. You got to have a concrete truck come out and pour the footers. So you're paying a delivery charge plus your concrete. Then you got to have your block delivered. Then you lay your block. All right, and then do you fill your block or not fill your block? And then do you do waterproofing? And there's a whole host of things that come into play when you do a basement, when you do it right. You're looking at a sump pump. You're looking at the extra insulation. You're looking at backfill. All this other stuff that comes into play. So then I thought, what about a crawl space? Well, crawl space is the same thing, except on a smaller scale. Now you're not digging down as deep and removing as much dirt, but you still got to dig the footers. And then you call a concrete truck to come out and pour your footers. Then you lay your block or your concrete or whatever you decide to do. So that would throw a big wrench in the idea of paying cash for it right out of the gate. Now when we build the bigger house, obviously it's going to have a basement in it. But that's something that I can do over time. I get an extra couple $100. I'm going to buy a block of, or a pallet of block, cinder block, have it delivered. It doesn't go bad. So then when I get, 8 pallets or however many I need to do my basement, then it's already there. It's waiting on me. All right. So, that'll be something that happens in the big house, but in the little house, like I said, I'm trying to keep it simple and cost efficient. So my idea for the foundation was to do concrete pillars, 8-inch concrete pillars. And so with the 8-inch concrete pillars, basically you're just going to put your pillars around your outside perimeter or whatever of your floor, and then you'll run one center row, and then I'm going to order 6x6 posts to lay right down the center as my center support. And then the way it'll actually be is your center foundation concrete posts or pillars will actually set about 6, 12, probably about 16 inches lower than the other pillar. No, it won't. 6 inches lower than the other pillars. And so what will happen is your center ones will set lower. You'll run your 6x6 down through there, which will in return raise the top of that 6x6 flush with the outside pillars. So then you lay your 2x10s across, and your 2x10 set right on the wood all the way down through there on top of the 6x6. Adds that center support. Now in a 14-foot wide house, do you really need that? Not really. But just for the sake of wanting to do it, and it makes timber a lot cheaper. 8-foot timbers is a lot cheaper than 14-foot timbers. And you may think, no it's not, but it is. So regardless, we're going to go with those. So that'll be the plan for the foundation. We'll do the concrete 8-inch concrete pillars, and overall it will cost about $447 for my foundation. Actually $447.83. And that's to do it right. That's to rent an auger to dig the holes. That's for gravel to put in the bottom for drainage. That's for the forms, the rebar, the hurricane straps, everything. Concrete and all. $483 as opposed to about $8,000 to $9,000 to put in an actual basement. So that's the foundation idea. All right, so this is the layout for the foundation pillars, like I was talking about, the concrete posts. And you can see I've got all the math already figured out on this. But basically this gives me where I need to put my stakes for my pillars, so that way when I get ready to dig my post, everything's nice and straight, nice and even. Use a transit level to set the height of the posts so that everything's nice and flush. And I've got my hypotenuse formula here to make sure that it's square. But basically this is just the layout of it here. And then I wrote myself some instructions down here so that I don't forget how high to make each post. Now, lastly, I made mention earlier about using rough sawn lumber. And I just want to show you guys what the difference is in price between rough sawn lumber and what you buy at your big box store. So this is the price sheet for the basically for the lumber, and this is doing the rough sawn lumber like I talked about before. I had another price sheet here. I don't know if I still have it or if I went ahead and threw it away. But basically what I did was I sat down and I figured up rough sawn price versus the price of a big box store lumber. And what my total comes out to be, now you can see my notes here. The floor, that's not just the floor joist, that's the floor joist and the subfloor. We're using 1x for subflooring. The floor, the walls, bed loft, kitchen loft, catwalk, which I'm doing away with. We're not going over that route. The roof, all the decking for the roof, and we're doing 1,600 board feet of poplar board and batten siding. And then also to include the porch, the total price for all the lumber, cut and dried, is $3,127. Your big box price on that is about $8,000. So we're saving over 50% on cost just by using rough sawn lumber. Now, what's the advantage to that? Well, the advantage is obviously the cost. Another advantage to that is the tensile strength of rough sawn lumber when dried properly is actually pretty excessively, I would say, stronger than milled lumber or planed lumber, the lumber that you buy in the big box stores. Why is that? Well, a standard 2x4 at a big box store is going to be about a 2x4 is going to be 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. All right, so it's not a true 2x4. Rough sawn timber is going to be 2 inches by 4 inches. So you get the actual dimensions, the proper dimensions for the lumber that you want. And that, in return, adds more tensile strength. So you can get away with smaller timbers for things like rafters and floor joists. And overall, your price is a lot better on it. Alright guys, so that does it for this episode. I just wanted to go over our idea for our plan for the tiny house, and kind of give you some ideas. If you're thinking of doing something kind of along the same lines, maybe you've never even thought about doing a small house. But the benefits are astronomical in my opinion. I think about, when me and my wife first got married, we lived in a 900 square foot apartment. It was 2 bedrooms, but one bedroom was small and the master bedroom wasn't big by any means. It had a living room and things like that. Then we moved to Wisconsin and we get a 2,200 square foot farmhouse with 3 decent sized bedrooms, and then a living room, a dining room, a big kitchen, and all this other stuff. And when you have that much room, you tend to fill those rooms with stuff that maybe you don't need, and stuff that we're frankly seeing now that we don't need. And so, just because you have a lot of stuff doesn't mean you need a lot of stuff. So, if you're thinking about this and you think, God, there's just no way I could do a small house, think about what it is that you use and what you don't use. I mean, just in this room alone, the stuff that I'm looking at right now, there's a futon behind me that never gets used, very rarely. If we sleep in the living room, sometimes we'll drag it in there. And there's a love seat over here that goes to a couch that's shoved in another room that we don't use, because obviously this is the dining room. Things like that. That's the kind of stuff that you start thinking about. And then you can offset that because you might think, well, I've got a lot of tools and I got a lot of other stuff. Think about building your own storage facility at your house. New construction, not tiny home construction, not with rough sawn lumber or anything like that. If you were going to hire me to come build you a house, you're looking at about, depending on options and things like that, it's just like a car. You can buy a $24,000 F-150 or you can buy a $60,000 F-150. It's got the same motor in it, the same floor space, but just different options. So the same with houses, but typically on average you're looking at $75 a square foot to build a home. What you can think of doing is save some of that money by making less square footage in your home and build a finished pole building, like with a concrete floor and heck, climate control, all kinds of stuff. And you're looking at more in the realm of about $30 a square foot for that. So, it's definitely some other options. That's another thing that we're going to go over in another episode is my shop. And I'll show you kind of the pricing on the shop versus the house. But keep in mind, $10,000, that's the budget for our house. And some of the ways to do that is going to be to do a little bit of bartering, which I've already started doing. I did some tile work for a guy, replaced 2 floor tiles in his house. He's moving to Missouri. He's got like a 3 or 4 year old front load washer and dryer, excellent condition. Didn't want to move it because the place he's renting down in Missouri already has a washer and dryer. So he bought the materials for me to fix the floor. I did the labor for free. It took me 2 afternoons after work, and I got a free washer and dryer out of it. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Use Craigslist. Don't be too prideful that you can't use some lightly used stuff and save a lot of money in the process. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I've got right now for the tiny home, or for the home plan, and or Liberty Hall as we call it. And I wanted to do something kind of patriotic or whatever, and I thought Liberty. I kept thinking of like Heritage Hall and things like that. Definitely wanted to go to the hall because it's only 14 feet wide and it's long. So it kind of fits. But anyway, guys, I'm going to quit rambling now. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments or maybe some other ideas, it's not too late to chime in some ideas. I love ideas because that's where I get a lot of my ideas from, is from other people's ideas. So, it's still in the planning phase. This stuff's not permanent. I haven't started building yet. And the cool thing about doing it yourself, change it as you go. You don't have to pay an engineer to redraw a bunch of plans. So anyway, guys, comments, questions, leave them below. Don't forget to rate. And if you're interested in following this probably 1,000,000 episode series on the Heritage Pride Homestead, then go ahead and subscribe as well. So anyway, guys, until next time, get out there, shoot some guns, be safe, and most importantly, have fun. See you guys later.